Overthinking begins in a place that was never meant to be the source of our suffering, the mind. The mind is a gift from Allah, an extraordinary creation designed to help us reason, to reflect, and to understand His signs within ourselves and in the world around us. But the same mind that can elevate us to deep understanding can also, when left unchecked, become a prison, and many of us live in that prison without realizing it. We replay old conversations, we analyze every possibility, and we build scenarios that never happen. The heart feels heavy not because something external has happened, but because the mind refuses to rest. When the Prophet described the believer, he described someone whose heart is at peace *mutmaina*, tranquil. That tranquility does not come from knowing every answer, but from learning to silence the endless questioning of what if. The problem with overthinking is not the thinking itself. Islam encourages reflection and contemplation. The Quran repeatedly tells us to ponder, but reflection is different from rumination. Reflection brings insight, while rumination brings exhaustion. One leads to wisdom, the other leads to worry. Overthinking often begins with a good intention. You want to make the right decision, understand yourself, or avoid repeating a mistake. But the line between reflection and obsession is thin. Once your thoughts start circling without resolution, you're no longer seeking clarity, you're seeking control, and that's where the heart begins to suffer, because control belongs to Allah, not to us. The more we try to master every detail of life, the more the mind spins, and the less peace we find. It's interesting how the Quran teaches balance between intellect and faith. We are told to use our minds, but always in submission to revelation. Reason is a light, but it must shine within the boundaries of trust. When we separate intellect from trust in Allah, that same light becomes blinding. We overanalyze every event, every emotion, every possibility, trying to find logic in what only divine wisdom can explain. That's when the gift turns against us, when the mind that was meant to serve the soul begins to dominate it. You see, overthinking is not just mental noise, it's a spiritual imbalance. It happens when the mind speaks louder than the heart. The mind says, "What if this goes wrong?" The heart says, "Allah is enough for me." The mind says, "But I need to know how it will end." The heart says, "Trust the one who knows the unseen." The peace we seek doesn't come from silencing thought altogether, but from giving each part of us its rightful place, letting the mind reflect, but letting the heart decide where to rest. And this is why remembrance of Allah is such a powerful remedy. The Quran says, "Verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest." Notice it doesn't say minds find rest, because the mind was never meant to carry what only the heart can hold. Hikr pulls you out of the maze of thought and into the reality of presence. It reminds you that you are not your thoughts. You are a soul connected to the one who created those thoughts. And when the soul reconnects, the noise fades. So the next time your mind begins to spiral, take a step back. Ask yourself, is this reflection or is this rumination? Is my mind serving my faith or is it fighting it? Don't allow your thoughts to dictate your peace. Let your faith lead your thoughts. The mind is a gift. Yes, but a gift meant to guide you toward Allah, not away from Him. And when you truly understand that, you realize something profound. Peace doesn't come from figuring everything out. Peace comes from knowing who is in control, even when you don't understand a thing. At the heart of overthinking lies a very human struggle, the desire to control what cannot be controlled. We think and plan and analyze, not always because we love to think, but because we fear uncertainty. We want to make sure every outcome works in our favor, that no mistake is made, that no pain surprises us. But life, by its very nature, resists that kind of control. The more we tighten our grip, the more it slips through our fingers. That's why overthinking doesn't bring safety, it brings suffocation. It traps you in the illusion that if you think hard enough, you can prevent disappointment. Yet, in the process, you create the very suffering you are trying to avoid. Islam teaches us something very profound about this. The Quran doesn't ask us to eliminate effort. It asks us to release attachment to the outcome. That is tawakkul, trust in Allah after you've done your part. It's not passive resignation, it's active surrender. It's knowing that while your effort matters, the final result belongs to Allah alone. When you truly understand that, a deep calm enters your heart. Because now, the pressure to control everything disappears. You act sincerely, you plan wisely, and then you let go. The Prophet taught us through his life what this looks like in practice. He tied his camel, yet he trusted Allah. He strategized before battles, yet his heart rested in divine decree. That balance between doing your best and releasing the rest, that's the essence of tawakkul. Overthinking is the opposite of that balance. It's when your mind refuses to release. It's when you plan not once, but 100 times, replaying the same scenarios because you fear what might go wrong. But what if you truly knew that nothing can go wrong if Allah is with you? That even what looks like loss may be protection, and what feels like delay may be preparation. Every person who overthinks is trying to protect themselves from the unknown. But the believer knows that the unknown belongs to the one who never makes mistakes. You can't see the full picture, but Allah can. Sometimes what you're desperate to control is something He is saving you from. And sometimes what you're afraid to lose is exactly what is weighing you down. When you start to see life through that lens, control stops being a burden. You start to breathe again. It's not that life becomes easier, it's that your heart becomes lighter. Because now, your focus shifts from controlling outcomes to controlling responses, your patience, your trust, your humility before Allah's will. The Prophet once said, know that if the whole world gathered to benefit you, they could not benefit you except with what Allah has already written for you. And if they gathered to harm you, they could not harm you except with what Allah has written against you. When you internalize that truth, your mind no longer needs to run endless calculations. You stop asking what if, because you start to say Alhamdulillah, whatever comes by His wisdom. There is a quiet strength in surrender. It's not weakness. It's the kind of strength that says, I will show up, I will try, but I will not destroy my peace over what I cannot change. That kind of heart cannot be shaken, because it knows who is in control. So the next time you catch yourself lost in thought, analyzing, replaying, worrying, remind yourself, surrender is not giving up. Surrender is trusting that Allah has already written what is best, even if you cannot yet see how it fits. Your job is effort, the result is His, and when that truth settles in your heart, you'll find a peace that overthinking could never give, a peace born not from control, but from complete trust in the controller of all things. Every thought that passes through your mind leaves an imprint on your heart, and the state of your thoughts often mirrors the state of your faith. A person whose heart is connected to Allah finds that their thoughts are steady, purposeful, and calm. But when that connection weakens, the mind becomes restless. Worry, fear, and endless what-ifs begin to take control. You see, overthinking doesn't start in the head, it starts in the heart. When the heart loses its anchor in faith, the mind begins to drift without direction. The Quran reminds us that true tranquility lies in the remembrance of Allah. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. It's interesting that Allah says hearts find rest, not minds. Because the heart governs the mind. When the heart is unsettled, the mind follows. When the heart is firm in faith, the mind becomes its servant, calm, disciplined, and guided. The mistake many of us make is trying to fix our thoughts without first fixing our faith. We try to manage anxiety by thinking differently, by repeating affirmations, by rationalizing our fears, but the real solution begins much deeper. It begins with the heart remembering who is truly in control. You can tell a lot about your relationship with Allah by observing the tone of your inner voice. A heart filled with faith speaks to itself with hope. Allah will bring good out of this. There's wisdom I can't yet see. But a heart distant from its creator fills the mind with fear. What if I fail? What if this doesn't work out? What if I'm not enough? The same situation, the same uncertainty, yet two completely different inner dialogues. One comes from trust, the other from doubt, and the more we entertain doubtful thoughts, the stronger they grow. Thoughts are like seeds, what you water will grow. If you water fear, it becomes anxiety. If you water faith, it becomes peace. When the Prophet went through hardship, his first response was not to overanalyze but to turn to Allah. In Taif, when he was rejected and insulted, he didn't spiral into self-doubt. He didn't think, what if I had said it differently? What if I had waited? Instead, he raised his hands and said, As long as you are not displeased with me, I do not care. That is the voice of a heart grounded in faith. His thoughts were guided by certainty, not shaken by fear. When you fill your heart with remembrance, overthinking loses its power. Hikr quiets the noise because it reminds you of reality, that you are not alone, that nothing happens outside Allah's knowledge, and that every trial carries purpose. The Prophet said, Strange is the affair of the believer, for everything that happens to him is good. Think about that. Even pain, loss, and confusion, all of it can be good if you interpret it through faith. Overthinking interprets life through fear, faith interprets life through purpose. So when your mind begins to spiral, don't fight the thoughts directly. Return to the source, make wudu, pray 2 rakas, recite Quran, say Subhan Allah until your heart softens. When the heart remembers, the mind relaxes. It's not about suppressing thoughts. It's about replacing them with trust. You'll notice how the same situation that once caused panic now feels manageable. That's not because the situation changed, it's because your heart did. Every time you choose faith over fear, you train your mind to think differently. Over time, your thoughts begin to mirror your trust in Allah, calm, deliberate, hopeful. That's the power of a believing heart. It doesn't silence thought, it sanctifies it. And when that happens, overthinking no longer controls you, faith does. Because the one whose heart rests with Allah never fears the storms within the mind. Overthinking often disguises itself as wisdom. You tell yourself, I'm just being cautious, or I'm just preparing. But in reality, many times it's not preparation, it's paralysis. You keep analyzing, replaying, and predicting until action feels impossible. The tragedy is that while you're waiting for the perfect clarity to arrive, life continues to move on. Opportunities pass, moments fade, and you remain stuck not because you didn't know what to do, but because you couldn't bring yourself to do it. Islam, at its core, is a faith of action. The Quran doesn't just call us to believe, it calls us to do. Those who believe and do righteous deeds. Reflection and planning are valuable, but they were never meant to replace movement. The Prophet was a man of deep contemplation, but he was never paralyzed by his thoughts. When revelation came, he acted with trust, with purpose, and with calm determination. That balance between reflection and action is what defines a believer's strength. Overthinking destroys that balance. It creates an illusion that by thinking more, you will somehow find the perfect answer, the perfect moment, the perfect plan. But perfection is an illusion, and the pursuit of it becomes a trap. What Allah asks of you is not perfection, but sincerity. He doesn't expect you to always get it right, only to act with a heart that relies on Him. That's why the Prophet taught us istikhara to think, to consult, to pray for guidance, and then to move forward . Because once you've sought Allah's help sincerely, hesitation no longer serves you. Psychologically, overthinking drains your energy without changing your outcome. The human brain seeks control through certainty, but faith teaches you to act even amidst uncertainty. Every time you delay action waiting to feel ready, you strengthen the habit of doubt. The heart grows weaker, The mind grows louder, and soon you begin to mistrust yourself entirely. You start believing that thinking more equals preparing more, but in truth, the only thing you're preparing for is regret. You see, trust is not built by waiting for confidence. Trust is built by stepping forward despite fear. The Prophet and his companions faced moments of deep uncertainty, battles where they were outnumbered, journeys that tested every ounce of faith, yet they acted. Why? Because they knew that inaction is also a decision. To do nothing is to choose fear over faith. And in the eyes of Allah, movement with sincerity is always better than paralysis with excuses. Spiritually, taking action is an act of tawakkul of trust. When you act after seeking guidance, you're declaring that you believe Allah will take care of the rest. You're acknowledging that your control is limited, but His is absolute. That step of faith, however small, opens doors that thought alone never could. Because Allah's help does not come to those who merely plan, it comes to those who move. So the next time your mind starts to spiral with what ifs, what if I fail, what if it doesn't work, what if it's not the right time, remind yourself that the only real failure is not trying at all. Even mistakes can be blessings if they draw you closer to Allah, but hesitation leads only to stagnation. Progress in faith, in purpose, in life all begins with action. At some point, you must stop thinking and start trusting. Stop analyzing and start walking. You've asked Allah for guidance, now walk in the direction He opens for you. Because overthinking never leads to certainty, but faith in action always leads to growth. And when you finally move with trust in your heart, you'll realize something profound. Clarity was never waiting at the end of your thoughts, it was waiting at the beginning of your courage.